Right, guys, welcome back. This is the Above Average FPL podcast. My name's Adam, and as always, I'm joined by Baker. How you doing, mate?
Very well, mate. Very well.
Good.
Relaxed. Got our friend here. All
Yeah.
nice and calm. Weeks to go.
So, for anyone listening, we have got Ivan back on the podcast. He was with us at the start of last season as well, and after another good season, he's come back to help us go through some drafts today. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me back on again.
Absolute pleasure. So, everyone knows you as the guy that doesn't look at his rank, and I had to bring it up straight away because you don't look at your rank. But you know, another season's gone by, and it's worked out absolutely fine for you. Finished off about 50k. 50k. So, I mean, look, if you could roll out 50k finishes forever and ever, it'd be.
I thought it was a lot worse, to be honest. And when I actually look at the rank, I think I was about 3k about game week 12 or something like that, but I wouldn't have done much differently, really. I got a few bad beats at the end, and post World Cup, we were pretty much all doing the same moves anyway because of the doubles. So it was just one of those seasons. So yeah, it's all about this season now.
I really like that. I get to sort of like voyeur on Ivan through the season. And I speak to him basically every day, but I always know where his rank is and he doesn't know where it is. And Late Riser knows where his rank is as well. And like when he was like 3k, we're like messaging each other. Oh my God, Ivan's 3k. And then like, let's all go act normal in the chat.
Well, sometimes you say, just don't look at the chat for 5 minutes. And then there's all these messages that are deleted. And I know something's going on, but there you go.
Sometimes we just do that to mess with you.
Yeah, exactly.
But still going to stick with it?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. It's a good quality of life. I don't think it changes anything at all. It's funny, Adam asked me before what it was, and I had to think about it. And I haven't looked at it all season, looked at it right at the end of the season, and then just forgot about it. It's just not even a thing, really. Obviously, if I did really well, and it would be a thing. But no, happy just to keep on playing the game, enjoying the game, and just seeing where I end up.
I'm not going to share this on here because people will then know what your ID is and be able to do the same. But
yeah,
I'm so annoyed that Ivan's got basically the most memorable ID you could possibly ever get, and yeah, it doesn't matter.
I'll never use it.
He's not sticking it in on live FPL every week or everywhere else.
So I spent the break just not looking at FPL and going, I think I'm 50-50 where I'm going to play it this year. And I was pressing F5 for about 2 hours, gave myself a migraine, got an amazing ID and went for a lie down, and now I'm off again. So such is FPL life.
Why did you even bother?
I don't know. I have absolutely no idea.
We are absolute sickos.
Yeah.
It's a tiebreaker if you need it at some point for whatever reason.
I'll tell myself that, yeah.
Exactly. So we're here to talk drafts. We've been busy. Well, you guys have been busy maybe. Building drafts so far. You know, there's a lot of questions going around, community, content, all this sort of stuff. You know, it's mainly circulating around 3 players, right? So it's mainly circulating around Haaland, Trent and Salah. And how can we fit 1, 2, or all 3 into our game week 1 teams? Obviously, we've got. Were you going to say something there, mate?
No,
I thought you putting your finger like that, like you're trying to stop me for something.
Stressed thinking about it. I'm not sure. I think there is different volumes of stress. I think there's a lot of people where the only ones really are stressing are the ones that want Salah in. Like we did a video a few days back. If you haven't, check it out on Salah. And yeah, now seeing that, I can't lose it from my brain that I'd like a bit of Mo in my team. And I think we're all going to go through that at some point. It'd be amazing if we do get through the end of pre-season and people don't start getting the old, literally FOMO.
But it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to have a bad team. The way the pricing is, there are 50 different teams that you could do, and they're all great.
But when we do get there, there's so many different options that I think we all think, we can all build whatever team we want. But choosing the 9 million, choosing the Bruno or the Rashford or both, choosing the Odegaard, the Martinelli, the Saka, or 2 of those type thing. Even today, I started playing through my brain of my immediate thought was Zinchenko, and then I was thinking, I actually think Gabriel. We'll talk a bit about that later. And then I'm like, why am I thinking this already? Like, I do think we're stressing too much over trying to get the draft that looks good, whereas what we wanted to do today was talk a bit more about the different structures that we think are out there. So we asked you as our guest. So this is not mine and Adam's draft you're about to see here, but this is Ivan's first go at a number of different structures that we think is where your starting point is, and then we work from there as pre-season plays out.
So we'll look at Haaland first, and then I guess, as you say, we're talking about primarily structure here. So for the benefit of people listening, I guess we're looking at a 4-5 4.0 keeper, whatever happens, combination. You've got Shaw, Estupiñán, and Mitchell. So you've got 5-5-5 and 4-5 for Mitchell, I guess.
Yeah, but you've also got James on the bench, and James could play in front of Mitchell as well. So Mitchell's really first on the bench normally, but he's got Sheffield United, so yeah.
It's a fixture punt.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then you've got this sort of premium light midfield, as we were calling it before we started, right? So you've got a bunch of players that could conceivably be in that premium position. So Foden, Rashford, Saka, Martinelli, and then I guess the budget of the lot is Mitoma, which is a bit of a surprise, I guess, for all of us. Yeah. And then Haaland and Jesus up front with Bayer and Archer being the dead striker and Bayer being the dead defender, right? Basically.
Yeah. The pricing is slightly crazy, and it kind of pushes us in various directions, and hence the different drafts. Because if you look at the midfields and the forwards, essentially below 6 million, you're struggling. So where are those enablers? Where are those enablers that can let you go to get Salah, as it were? You've got your Salah. You've got Kane as well. We haven't mentioned Kane, but we assume he's still going to be around. And then just a load of good players at about the same price. And if you do avoid Salah and Trent, and obviously there's an argument to pros and cons to that, fixtures aren't great apart from that scary Bournemouth fixture in the second in game week 2. What you're able to do there is build not only deep strength, but also you're able to basically just swap these premium lights all the time. So for instance, you could have Foden. It didn't even be Foden. You could have Foden against Burnley. And then swap him to be Gakpo against Bournemouth, and then it could be Maddison or a Chelsea midfielder as well, to accommodate their great fixtures as well. So you've got a load of flexibility, but of course you don't have Trent and you don't have Salah. But I would argue that if you're not captaining Salah, and that's a big if, but if you're not captaining Salah, that extra money is, you need Salah to be absolutely on top of his game to be able to think about actually having Salah for that price, I think. And maybe even need to be consider captaining him against Haaland as well to really, at this stage, go for him.
And this had $1 million in the bank. So I think if anyone was looking at this, as I said, don't over sweat on the players, because Rashford could be Son, Saka could be Odegaard. It has $1 million in the bank. So Martinelli can be Odegaard, Foden could be Bruno, Mitchell could be anyone, is that you wanted up to 5.5 million. Like, you could upgrade the keeper on this. The point is, there's no sacrifice if you just go Haaland. And if you really think that you're going to perma-cap him, and I do think that Newcastle at home, like, not capping Haaland at home is tough, isn't it? I remember, I don't even know what it was for home XG per game. I'm sure there'll be people that can tell us, but it was over 1 is XG for each home game. It's not like it's oh my God, it's the worst thing I'm ever going to do. Like, there's no Botman in this, and one of the reasons is that we wouldn't want to play him against City. So why wouldn't we want to captain Haaland?
But we always fall into the trap of thinking, well, you need Kane or Salah to captain against Haaland. You got Saka. He's got Crystal Palace, albeit away. United have got Tottenham, so no comment there. But there's always options out there as well if you really wanted to go against Haaland. But there's just probably no need, really. But I wouldn't begrudge anyone having Salah and captaining Salah. Fair play. But you've also got to think about you could have Gakpo for 5 million less for a start. So that's insane. And you're also Salah might get something against Bournemouth. He probably will. But you're also blocking someone who could get points against someone else as well for a lot less. And as we'll see when we talk about Salah, there's really no compromises there at all, apart from obviously Trent and Salah. And we also need to bear in mind that, while we only need this up to our first wild card, whether that's in game week 3 or 4 or 8, it's really only that Bournemouth fixture that really gives us the heebie-jeebies, I think.
The problem with that is that fixture was 9-0 last season, so it's not surprising that people are getting a little bit antsy about it. That doesn't.
And
that doesn't
the new
surprise me
manager's
at all.
going to bring in this new high energy, running around, pressing from the front. Beelzebub essentially. I just don't know how you take the Bournemouth of last year, who were good in their own way, and turn them into prime Bielsa Leeds over a period of a couple of months. I mean, it could be a horror show, or it could, they could do something special.
Yeah, it was
probably
Scott
a horror
It was
show.
Scott Parker Bournemouth, wasn't it?
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was
absolutely.
Bad. That was bad.
Yeah. I mean, they were depressed out there. The Gates really weren't they? He was just saying we're going to get a hiding, and so who knows? Who knows? I mean, Liverpool should go big. I think we wouldn't bet against Liverpool going big against Bournemouth, but it's just one game week. And again, you can get Gakpo, and Gakpo could easily just get the same as Salah.
Feels almost impossible in this team that I'm looking at there that you roll the transfer in game week 2. I feel like you'd be like, I've got to have some piece of that game.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're doing that really just to cover yourself, aren't you? I don't feel like you're trying to attack it. You're trying to defend yourself from what could happen. So you're like, okay,
and as
cool,
we saw,
I'll get 3 points minimum from a midfielder because Bournemouth won't score, is what you'd think, and then anything else is a bonus.
Yeah,
basically.
And then Salah smashes it, and you're like,
Salah scores a hat trick from 3 Trent assists, and you go and cry.
But you only need to defend yourself if you're playing the OR game, essentially, and Salah's OR is not going to be what it has been at all. So if he hauls, great, well done. You may not, if you captain him, even better. But at the same time, you might have made compromises elsewhere as well. And how many points would those players have got as well? And hey, the fixtures aren't that great now anyway.
What do you think is it? Let's take a bet now on his ownership. I mean, because it's not even effective ownership, it's just ownership, isn't it? Because it's game week 1. What do we think his ownership will be?
I don't think you can say that, because all you need is Balogun to go on loan somewhere to West Ham or something like that, and then all of a sudden everyone's going to have Salah, and it's a completely different conversation. If you just go with what you know now, 25%.
He's 25% now, and I reckon we're all a lot more ballsy now than we will be in a few weeks' time. Like, I think he's still going to be 35, 40. I think. I still think there's a lot of people that just go, "Oh, it's Salah. We have to stick him in."
Sure, but it's also just 1 week.
It is just 1 week.
Yeah, I was going to say we've probably got maybe 15, maybe only 20% of the teams that we're going to see in the game so far as well. There's only 1.35 or 36 million signed up at this point. That's going to be 8 million by the time we come to game week 1 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it will be.
So things will change, and I think it's worth keeping an eye on it.
Yeah.
Next,
well, seeing as we're talking about Salah, we might as well put Salah into this draft. But this one obviously doesn't include Trent still. And, we're obviously having to now make sacrifices in the front line and also in the midfield to try and get Salah in. I think, as you say, if you get Balogun in there or whatever, then, we're flying.
You do and you don't. So this draft here is based on the quite hefty assumption that Enciso and Ferguson are legit options, and they proved themselves in pre-season, and they're the world-class players that they're going to be, and we would want them in the team. Who knows? I mean, they could be amazing options, but whenever I look at my original draft, it's always a case of how many of those kind of hit and hope players do you have? The ones that you just think, well, they could be good. I think they're going to be good. Versus your Sakas, who you just know they're great and you know exactly what you're going to get, and your Rashfords, etc. as well. And you can only carry so many. So this is a little bit dodgy in that I've got Enciso and Ferguson, but all you need to do is downgrade, say, Martinelli to Mitoma. That's an extra $1.5 million to spend. That's Ferguson up to maybe Nkunku, or even up to Jesus, and you could downgrade Shaw. There's things you can do. So this one does look like there's compromises, and there are compromises, but they might not be as striking as they are on as you see on the screen. There are things you can do. So Salah on its own, you can do. Perfectly feasible, I think. Whether you should do it is another matter.
Just asking a slightly different question here. I don't know whether this kind of makes sense, but if you were to wildcard, let's say you're in any given season, if you're to wildcard in game week 34, like how punty do you get with some of your picks, or do you try and go full template, or like how do you approach a game week 34 wildcard compared to a game week 1 team? Because in my mind, if you think that quite a lot of people will be wildcarding by game week 4, it's essentially the same thing, right?
I guess with 34, if you're playing a normal game of FPL and not me, then you're obviously looking at your rank and thinking, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
Whilst game week 4, you're generally thinking, who are the best players? Who are the best fixtures? Who do I want in my team? So there is quite a difference, I think, if you're a normo.
But you're not worried about the team once you get to that game week 4, because you're going to change it, right? That's my point.
Yeah,
so you could. So I think if you're saying you've obviously got a lot more information at that stage. That I guess that's the point. I guess.
Yeah.
Because we could look at Enciso and Ferguson. I think impressed quite well at the end of last season, but we do know that Ferguson only played 90 minutes once all season, and they've just brought in João Pedro.
Yeah.
So whilst we look at him and think he's good, then
but he could be Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He could be Wisa. Again, they've all got a hint of hidden hope about them. They're not surefire bets at all. And the issue is, of course, if they don't pay off, which quite often happens, then where do you go? So there is a compromise there in terms of if your enablers don't pay off, then you're probably walking into a wild card or sacrificing some of your better players, your premium lights, as it were, to be able to afford other players as well. So for the sake of having Salah, especially Salah against Bournemouth, you are limiting yourself a little bit in terms of that flexibility. And, there are hits or an early wild card coming if it doesn't pay off.
Yeah. On the flip side on this one, I feel like this is the best way that you could potentially roll through game week 2. Potentially, if you do commit early with Salah or Salah and Trent, there is the chance that actually, rather than wildcard, what you do is whilst everyone is flustered come game week 2, because Liverpool might come out of the block flying at Chelsea, and there's a reason like a lot of us are a bit and ahhing on Chelsea is because Liverpool finished the season really, really well, and Chelsea have got a lot of work to do. Now they come out and smash up Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. It's going to cause a lot of flustering, and if you're actually in that strong position when everyone's making moves, you could be the one that's not. We saw that we've already mentioned it before, but the Salah and Kane season 2 seasons ago, everyone panicked, whereas all our casual Spurs mates were like, yeah, fine, no worries, we're just sitting around doing what we're doing, reaping the points in. So the more you do commit on Liverpool, it is a high risk, high reward strategy, because you're putting eggs in a lot of baskets, but it could end up being the one where actually you're in the really stable position and everybody else isn't. But like you say in this, if Enciso and Ferguson don't come off with Baldock, Bayer and Archer on the bench, Salah becomes the obvious sell, is the issue post game week 2.
Yeah, which might not be the worst thing in the world. And getting back later on when you wildcard, you had him for Bournemouth his hat-trick. You captained him. Well done.
And that might work, because I'm saying even that, you go game week 1, you go game week 2, you've rolled in game week 2, you do your mini wild card in game week 3 and use the Salah money and say, see you later.
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely will sell Salah in game week 3 if he blanks in game week 2 and you captain him against Bournemouth. That'll just be the rage of rage sales.
Yeah. But, in terms of Enciso and Ferguson, I mean, they're 18 and 19, but at the same time, De Zerbi, he brought Mudryk through when he was young, etc. And I mean, Enciso did nothing. He had got like 5 minutes here, and then it was when Ferguson was injured. I think it was 10 games to go. So he actually started 7, 3 substitute appearances. So he featured in all 10 of those games, albeit he was quite often subbed about 55 minutes, etc. 4 goals, 2 assists, doing nothing wrong. There's no McAllister now. There's a number 10 spot up for grabs. He is legit. De Zerbi has said he's not going to be a big player. He's going to be a great player. And the only thing missing from his game is his mentality. I don't like it that the way the game's going affects his mentality. For a 19-year-old. So, and João Pedro's not old. and is he going to walk straight into that number 10 position as well? So Enciso could be an amazing pick. Normally, I would say, well, just wait for him to be amazing and get him in. Great, it's 5.5. Who cares? The only thing I would say, Luton, first game, and they've got some good games straight away, and then it turns sour quite quickly. And you probably want to get on them now if you're going to get on them before the rotation from Europe kicks in, before the fixtures change as well. Because De Zerbi didn't rotate for the first half of the season at all.
No, solid. Yeah, I've got no issue. What was good with De Zerbi with that was he basically, before he started him, he said, didn't he? He said, right, and Enciso's now ready.
Yeah,
he's going to start playing. And immediately, I remember at the time, I was like trying to Google, where does he play? Is he going to come in for a Stupinan? Like, who is he coming in for? Where's he going to do? Is that a March issue? Where's he going to be? But he literally just said, yeah, he's ready now. He's playing.
And over those 10 games, he played attacking midfield left, attacking midfield centre, attacking midfield right, false 9. So
and João Pedro can do that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're all, I think there's a lot of stuff you hear noise-wise where people will place someone where they want that person to be because it affects somebody they haven't got and somebody they have got. So I saw everyone saying, "Oh, he's a 10." He can play anyway. I think he's potentially a threat to Matoma minutes as well as everybody else. I do, people say, "Oh, Ferguson, you can't have him because they've got João Pedro. You can't have Enciso, you've got João Pedro. You can't play all these positions." I think generally he'll take a lot of minutes out of most people.
Yeah.
But they've got more players now, and Welbeck. Don't forget, Welbeck played a lot of minutes, and he's still there. But maybe he's not going to be there forever. Maybe they just brought João Pedro in because Welbeck can't play forever.
I think they brought him in to replace Matoma when they inevitably sell him next year. Quite possibly. I think he'll probably play on the left. He's a great dribbler.
Yeah.
But he can, then your depth as well. So they've probably got an eye on that.
We saw it. I mean, Adam saw it more than any of us. Was that period just after the World Cup where Matoma toward the end of the game went central. It wouldn't surprise me if João Pedro comes off, plays on the left, and they move Matoma inside quite often. He might make Matoma better.
Absolutely. That having been said, we're all talking about hypotheticals, the kind of the hidden hope here. He might stay on the bench now. We just don't know. So again, it comes back to that. How much, in the absence of genuine enablers, I mean, he could be the mother of all enablers, but in the absence of a locked-in, Andreas is the only locked-in 5.5, I think, who you would really consider going for. That you can sleep easy. And Enciso is the ballsy pick. It could work out, it could not. But it's the kind of thing you might need to be looking at if you want to go heavy on Salah and also have really strong midfield as well.
Yeah. Where are we going next?
No Salah, but with Trent this time.
This feels easy. This one.
Relatively, yeah. Relatively. I think the main concession here is that instead of having a Son or you've got Martinelli here, but a Foden, you've got Mbeumo, essentially. So you've got 2 6.5s, Mbeumo and Matoma, who, are good. I think we can all say there's no hidden hope there. We know you're going to get value there. And that's really the concession and the lack of Chelsea defender. So although you could have James over Shaw or switch Shaw after his fixtures, game week 3 to James there. So that's perfectly doable as well. It's not much of a compromise. And Jesus, again, I love Jesus because he's got Nottingham Forest and can become Nkunku, can become Watkins as well. You're not scrambling around with that 6 million dodgy bracket. You've got a lot of flexibility there. It's just you're sacrificing one of those premium light midfielders and probably have to choose between, obviously, there's one premium defender less. Apart from that, it's all good.
Jesus also obviously gives you the Darwin or Hakpo option in game week 2 as well.
Oh, Hakpo's midfielder there. So,
no, he's a striker.
Yeah, Hakpo's midfielder. Jota is a midfielder.
Jota's a midfielder.
I thought Hakpo was a midfielder.
No, he's a forward.
No.
What? I'm gutted.
No, Hakpo's up top and Darwin's up top.
Oh, beg your
Jota's
pardon.
gone back.
Yeah.
That must have been when I was having a migraine, having pressed for 2 hours.
It's so weird seeing Jesus as that third highest priced. Like those 8 million strikers are literally the third highest price forwards that you got.
Are they?
But there's no one above them.
Yeah, you're right.
It goes Haaland,
Yeah.
Kane, 8 million. That's it.
Vardy.
Yeah.
Poor Vardy. He's finally left us.
Oh yeah,
There was all.
I went
there was
searching
always
for
Vardy,
him
wasn't
there.
there?
I went searching for him.
I genuinely, the first thing was, what's Vardy? Vardy's always occupied that price and kept
Little
the break between
9.5,
us.
yeah.
But it's just
Yeah.
such a jump. That's the thing. The jump's just crazy. And I think if you had made Kane 11.5, Salah 11.5, then you've got a genuine discussion about, do I not have Haaland? Do I go for both of those? Do I risk it? You probably wouldn't, but it's a discussion. I don't think it's much of it. It's not a discussion at 14 with those at just 1.5 million behind.
Wow.
Mm.
So this one for the audio, yeah, effectively to bring Trent in, you're spending an extra 3 million in defence, which means you drop out one of your like 8.5s down to a 6.5, and you've gone for the double 4.0 defence. That's one of the things actually that I've our friend Danny's been on double 4.0, and you're looking at the 4.0. I think that's actually a really smart thing if you bring Trent in. Is I feel you make less sacrifice in that. I think a lot of people moved straight away when they did that to move Jesus down to Nkunku or any one of the 7.5s.
Yeah.
What I like on this one, and that might still be where you end up, but
Sure.
I actually like the idea that you start at the 8 because you can go anywhere you like.
I think the double 4s is really doable this year so far. Normally you have there's 3 of them where you think, oh, they might get a game, and then they go on loan a week before the season starts and you're down to 1 or 2, and you might have a Lundstrom, but you generally don't. Now there's what? There might be 10 options that might actually play at the moment. And because what they've done, they've basically looked at the promoted teams and put a load of them down at 4.
Yeah.
And obviously they might be replaced as players come in, etc., and they'll be ticked off. But I think it's perfectly feasible that you can have 2 4.0s on the bench. Hope they never have to play. It doesn't really make much of a difference, let's face it. But especially in the early days, not much rotation. If someone gets injured, you probably just sell them, or just or it's just not that big a deal, really. So as long as you're not going with Enciso and Ferguson, hoping that they play, well, they'll probably come off the bench anyway. So
I haven't seen any chart. So we've got the triple Bs. So we've got Bell, Bayer, and Baldock. They're the ones on there.
And Braithwaite as well.
And Braithwaite.
There you go. There you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
You meant tell us about Braithwaite.
Just because I was messaging you earlier. So so I mean, who knows? And it's Everton, but it is Dyche. But he was on loan at PSV last year. Took a while to break in under Van Nistelrooy, but when he did, he played nearly every game. I think he played 25, 30 games. They won the Dutch Cup. I think he scored no goal in that game, but we'll ignore that. Came second in the league. He scored 4 goals, including at least one thunder shot, should we say. Polite young man.
He's so polite. I love you.
But they've sold Cody. They've sold Mina as well. And I think Holgate's going out on loan as well. So he stands a chance. And a 4.0 Dyche defender, yeah, it's all right, isn't it? And
Dyche didn't send him out on loan, obviously.
No, absolutely. And the PSV actually wanted him. They wanted to bring him back, probably permanently. And I think Everton have told him that it's not. Well, at least according to the Athletic, it's not seen to be likely, and it's seen to be likely that they're going to bring him back. And whether he starts or not, we don't know. But they haven't got many defenders anymore, so fingers crossed.
Yeah, he started 18 out of the last 20.
Yeah,
in the league. Man.
Perfect.
Yeah, 4 goals. It's
So
all right, isn't it?
We've got Bell's now, but plays for Luton. I've absolutely been suckered in once I heard that the nickname, or what the Burnley fans call him, is Beckenbauer.
Yeah, me too.
Once I'd heard that they call Bayer Beckenbauer at Burnley, I was like, I want him. Has to be good at the bonus. Has to be good on the bonus, Beckenbauer. So he was immediately in. Baldock, so George Baldock was, obviously down the right, was really good when he was used to be in the league. He's 30 now. He's in the last year of his contract. 30 now, Jesus. Baldock. Yeah, he's in the. I mean, I was talking to our friend Daddy about this earlier and said I said last year the contract. I wonder if he'll go, and he was like, No, their fans think they'll stay, and I'm like, yeah, it sounds like we're talking about Kane here, where's last year of the contract. We'd like him to stay too, but will he be there? I don't know. But yeah, you never know. He could go Bulldog.
I think the thing with the 4.0s is you have to be careful of ownership, because you don't want a 3.9 and then a 3.8, and we've all had it. Probably even more so for the forwards as well. That's probably a bigger deal. But yeah,
but potentially 4 that are going to start.
At least there's others as well. I mean, admittedly for Luton, etc. But I mean, we don't want to start them, and but you might get 1 or 2 points off the bench, and you've got all the money on the field.
I think unless I'm going to play a strict 4 at the back system, I think the double 4.0 is the way.
Yeah, I don't mind a bit of rotation. So Palace and Villa, for instance, rotate pretty decently. And Palace were actually the 4th. They had the 4th best XGC last season, behind City, Arsenal, and Newcastle, surprisingly as well. And Aston Villa showed that they can keep clean sheets as well. So, I don't mind a bit of rotation. A Mitchell and Cash, 4.5, 4.5.
Every time anyone mentions rotation defenders, I remember a conversation about 2017 where I was spending loads of money on defence, and Adam said, what you can do, right, is like you can pick like 2 4.5 defenders, or even keepers, and like switch them. And I was like, this is witchcraft. Is this exist?
That's fun. Like, that's fun times, that was.
Yeah, what have I been doing for the last 10 years when I could have been doing this?
And did it work out? Nah.
Not really, no. It just sounded great.
It does sound great. It's one of the first things I always look at, and rarely do it.
The first thing that comes out of anything comes out, it's always rotating pairs, rotating this. Like, you're never rotating. And that's what, funny enough, that's what worries me about all this, the transfer. I know we're not going to be spending transfers really up top if we're going to go just Haaland then, but how often are you actually going to transfer in and transfer out these 8.5, 8 million midfielders? We said it last year.
They're going to hurt. Know it's going to hurt.
Exactly. We've all done it last year. We sold Arsenal, and they kept on getting points for ages and ages and ages.
Yeah,
it's a good point. Really good point.
Yeah, that was the thing. Arsenal just kept going, and I think I've said this like 3 times already on video so far pre-season, but we look back at last year and talk about the teams that have not got Europe that we expect to do well as well. There's teams there that we need to make sure we consider. Absolutely. And stuff like that.
It's kind of one of the reasons why at the moment I'm tempted to go with the no Salah and no Trent, because you get all of those premium like positions. So you're probably never going to sell Salah, etc., or Rashford. But there's a couple of positions you almost identify as, okay, these are the ones that are going to likely change. Because the first draft I put together, I had Son in it, and it was like, wow, look at that, there's quality throughout. But I don't want to sell any of those players ever. We're making zombie teams here, and actually we're only really making zombie team. We're not making any zombie team at all. But you're only looking at the next 3, 4, 6, 7, 8 game weeks. And you might actually be missing opportunities. I didn't have Matoma in my first draft, and I just looked and thought, hang on a minute, got Luton. Why wouldn't I have Brighton, a Brighton attacker? Why, for the sake of having a big name?
Well, he only got 1 goal in about 15 game weeks, so everyone says he's now rubbish.
Yeah, true. He got an XG of like 1.1 against Manchester City though, and got no goals. So he was point dodging all over the place.
Oh, and he had that. Well, the goal that was like handball, whatever it is, that would have been 0.9 XG, where it was on the goal line. So yeah, he's still a really good player. We'll see it. It'll only take 1 game in pre-season. I was interested. I retweeted a thread earlier. There was a guy, Duffman. Never seen him before, Mr. Duffman, but kindly put together all of the pre-season friendlies. What I thought was really interesting is some teams have got very little friendlies.
Brighton.
So little friendlies. Yeah. I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
We might not learn as much as I think we're going to learn for some of these ones. So let me run through a couple of these. So Arsenal have 6 friendlies. Perfect. 1 every 4 or 5 days. It's all going to be fine. Villa, I've got like 6, fine. Those are teams we're interested in. Brighton, have a friendly on the 22nd of July against Chelsea, then Brentford, then Newcastle. They're playing 3 Premier League teams in a week. That's their only friendlies. 3 friendlies.
Crazy, isn't it? Crazy.
In
I
the
mean, I
space of a
presume there
week.
might be others scheduled, but yeah, it's. I looked at Brighton because that's obviously in Ciso, Ferguson. I was like, all right, I'm going to learn a lot. Am I? Wow. Okay. So yeah.
Chelsea have got 5, start on the 19th against Wrexham. Again, got 3 Premier League teams in Dortmund. We've got some other teams like Fulham have only got 3. Liverpool have only got 4. And they've got Leicester on the 30th of July and then Bayern Munich on the 2nd. So like 2 days in between them. So it's probably 3. Luton are only playing 2 pre-season friendlies.
Crazy, isn't it?
Luton are going to go. So just think about that. Luton are going to go in against Brighton and have only played 2 friendlies against Chesham. Do you know the other friendlies against, Ivan?
I don't.
You should know.
I should do.
It's Ipswich.
Is it Ipswich? No, I do know that. Of course, I know that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you know what?
That's Premier League standards, so they're all right.
They currently say they're both on the 25th of July.
So it's a B team and a half a team, and
maybe they haven't arranged them. I don't know.
I love that Man United are basically playing half a season before.
Man United are playing 7 games.
But when you get to that standard, quite often it's just in a B team. It's at what point do you actually start playing the proper players? So I think there's 3 or 4 is reasonable. I think
Tottenham are playing 4.
Four,
yeah. Which I'd like 5. If I'm honest, it's 4. I know. People are going to ask us about Tottenham and stuff, and like we want to see it, but like we've got 9 days before we even see it.
Yeah. This is the thing. I mean, Tottenham and Chelsea, absolutely fine to have them in the team, but I want to see what's going on. I want to see it and really understand it. And there's not much of an opportunity to actually do that.
Yeah.
Do we want to move on to the?
What could also be the case on that? Because I don't know that Duff man, is he could be completely wrong, and I've just taken all this information and said, yeah, that's what that case is. So
I was looking from a separate source actually, and I think that does pretty much link it. And certainly the Brighton one was the one that jumped out of me, where it's like I have to wait to end of the month till I see Brighton play. What's going on there?
Yeah.
So let's look at the full house.
Finish with the big hitters. So this draft has everything you'd ever want. Salah, Saka, Trent, and Haaland, obviously.
Well, it has the Mitchell and Cash rotation for a start, so you're absolutely right. It has everything.
It's got rotating defenders, yeah.
Yeah, but it has the currently in Ciso and Ferguson. But again, you could make concessions, but there's not much room to make concessions there. So, I mean, you could go for Andreas. Again, you could go for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, etc. But you're really scraping it now in terms of, with this one, you can really see the concessions that you've made for the sake of having Salah and Trent. But again, you've got a bench. You've got one person on the bench, which isn't that bad. So if Ciso or Ferguson doesn't feature, you have got cash. And if you really thought that Bournemouth fixture was the one to target, you could do that, and you could wildcard as well. And wildcard 3 or 4, and then bring your Chelsea and Spurs in there, having got your Salah and Trent mega hauls. So it's doable. But I don't think structure-wise it necessarily lends itself well to a later wildcard, as it were. Yeah. You're probably going to maneuver yourself into a wildcard situation. Again, all it takes is a Balogun. All it takes is something like that, a game breaker, and then all of a sudden you're good. So it's not completely impossible, but there's clear concessions that you'll be making there. And you're going 4-4-2. So again, you're limiting the number of these premium lights. And if you've got Rashford, you've got Saka, and you've got Salah, and then a GP, how many of those 3 are you ever going to sell? And who you're going to sell? It's quite limited in that respect. It's a zombie team.
It is. So on these ones, I was going to ask a couple of questions. One is, I've noticed Rashford and Martinelli over Odegaard and Bruno. Feels like goal scorers over creators.
Yeah, that's it.
Is that you?
Yes, absolutely. Now, depends if United bring in, if they bring in Harry Kane, then Bruno will be in there in a flash. But so it all depends on who they're assisting to as well. But yeah, it's all about the goals, especially in midfield, as far as I'm concerned.
And in Cisso's a goal scorer.
Yeah.
I like it. When I look at these
Absolutely.
ones, I look at it and think goal scorer, goal scorer, goal
Yeah.
scorer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, you've got your defense, Gabriel, goal scorer, kind of. Trent, goal scorer. Purvis, fantastic, goal scorer. And then you can't have everything, so you've got Mitchell and Cash. But, there's excitement there.
Cash has got a right foot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Got a right foot on him.
Bang.
Exactly. So, there's concessions there, but there's some exciting players there. And with a very fair wind, that could actually kick off really quite big.
Mm.
But
That's
again,
what I noticed in all the drafts that you've put up here is that it's goal scorers, goal scorers, goal scorers. I see a lot of drafts at the moment, and it feels like they're looking a lot more for points. And I know it sounds ridiculous because we all want the points, but that they're players with multiple avenues to points, and yours look really weapony.
it's just personally.
They're like the Harvey Barnes of drafts. Do you know what I mean? It's like they all look like I just want to score some goals.
I guess, and that's what I naturally gravitate to. But there's no right or wrong. You could go others as well, and that's one of the. Everyone's priced about the same, apart from a few exceptions. It's almost turned into a game of, well, just pick 9 or 10 really good players and just hope that your really good players outscore the other really good players. So in a worst case scenario, it's going to be variance all over the place, and we're just going to be completely demoralized. Best case scenario, it's going to be really fun because there's players going to be going off big time. You're jumping on and off them. It could be really good because everyone's the same price.
Yeah.
Which one's your favourite at the moment?
I gravitate. It's definitely no Salah.
Okay.
I would like to see Liverpool first, but I think if I had to choose now, I'd probably go with the no Salah, no Trent. So the big, the million in the bank, ultimate flexibility, loads of great players there. But I do know I fear Trent more than Salah, to be honest.
Did you see that tweet tonight?
Yeah, or the muscles and all of that, the picture.
Right.
Yeah, he's looking. But we always do that. Someone will always post a picture of their top off, and we just go, "Look at him, he's in great shape." And
absolutely, Adam, you've been out.
I missed this completely. Yeah,
Adam, go haircut and new body. He looks good.
Go check Trent's account, mate. The cornrows and the fucking muscles is like Jesus Christ. Genuinely, like, I mean, yeah, he looks a specimen. There's while Adam looks at that, there's no Trent. There's no. Did you just say fucking hell?
It looks like David Hay.
He does, doesn't he? Yeah.
He looks like he's preparing for a middleweight fight or something.
Mate.
Incredibly lean.
Mental.
Yeah. There's no Chelsea or no Spurs yet. Is that because they're watching brief, or is it the fixtures?
Both. And I wouldn't disparage anyone who had replaced those players with Chelsea or Spurs either. It's more, for me, it's just a case of, well, you've got proven assets with great fixtures, so why not start with them? So, I did have Sterling, I did have Son, and I've had Maddison at various points, well, tinkering around. It's just like, well, their season starts in game week 3 in terms of the fixtures, and am I really going to stick them in now when I could have Martinelli against Nottingham Forest?
Yeah.
No. And you get the luxury of actually getting to suck it and see for a little while as well. So, but and Nkunku could be great, Sterling could be amazing, and again, James and Chilwell, depending on how I think James is going to be really good this year. I would like to think, purely because they don't have Europe anymore. So he's been working with a fitness coach, etc. He'd been trying to make a point. I think he could be pretty special as well. And that's one of the main concessions we have in the Trent draft, is that you don't have James. But again, arguably you could wait a couple of weeks as well.
You were straight on James Lock, weren't you, when they saw 5.5?
Yeah, 5.5, absolute lock. 1 game a week. Yeah, I'm all over that.
Yeah.
Like,
and
it's too
last
good.
Last season, I was the guy going, and Danny was as well. Just like, I'm not touching James anymore. It's a disaster waiting to happen. Now I think he's had his time off. As you say, no Europe. That could be really, really good.
Yeah, shouldn't forget as well. Like for Poch, it's the first time we're going to speak about Poch. Like we were saying when we came on this, we were ruled out to Chris the first time we said Soboslai, and now that was different for a difficult reason. This is the first time I having to say Poch for a non-Spurs reason.
Mate, you sent me this. Now we're not really going to show this, but you sent me this, right? You sent me literally this fixture list, which is face on it. I had to actually had to look at it. Let's get rid of that.
He's so happy, isn't he?
He looks way too happy.
He's looking directly at that Luton fixture as well, isn't he? He's licking his lips.
Literally just here, I've got the Ajax game, a picture on my wall, and I've got the no score draws guided, a Pochettino edition, where it's like little panini stickers of all the pictures that are done there. So I have to look at him every day. It does break my heart, but when I look at it, I do remember Danny Rose and Kyle Walker and how important fullbacks were to the system that Poch played, and that's what I really want to see how that plays out, because we're going to talk about it at some point around defenders, but in most teams, the fullbacks are not playing the same role as they were historically. In my mind, Pochettino really, really uses the fullbacks to pin teams in, and potentially for Chilwell and James. If that's what we see, we're just not going to see enough of it. Like, there's not a huge amount of games that we're going to see from Chelsea to try and get an understanding of it, but we know the players. Like I saw last week, Chilwell and James both sort of instant within like a few minutes of each other saying they're ready, like back at it, ready. It's hard to go against them. And actually, the good thing about James, whatever role he plays, we like him, because if he inverts, he's really good at it, and he'll play centre midfield in a really good way. If he plays down the right, we know he's fantastic. The good thing about James is that as well, and Chilwell, is that they take corners and Mount's gone.
We also think that James might be on penalties as well.
Kai's gone.
Exactly. Kai Havertz has gone. So no Havertz, no Mount. So it's either going to be James or Sterling as it stands. Surely it's going to be one of those.
Gosh.
Sterling. You don't want Sterling on penalties.
Exactly.
Incredible.
But we don't know.
The Athletic suggested it as well, that it was an option.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk when it was Kai was that James was the alternative, because obviously Jorginho and Kai gone.
I don't know. I mean, does Nkunku take him? Probably.
I don't know.
That's a good question. We'll find that out.
We'll find that out. But we'll hope for a pre-season pen.
But again, it feeds into the Trent question. It's if James does what we think James is going to do, how do you have both him and Trent, or do you have one or the other? That's a huge premium you're paying to have Trent. I mean, what you could do is just start with Trent and then go to James in game week 3, and having saved 2 Trent, and then use the money elsewhere to boost everything up again. Sort of almost go to the draft where it was no Trent, but do that in game week 3, as it were, and actually have him for the Bournemouth match. But then Trent goes off in Bournemouth, you probably don't want to sell him, do you?
Nah.
Nkunku took 4 penalties last season, scored 3, but he shared them with Forsberg and Soboslai in the league.
Forsberg got the penalties, didn't he?
Okay, so he could well be on them.
Could be. Well, I think we're there. Well, for now, we're there with we're there with the 6 weeks to go draft, at least, and still plenty of questions to be answered. But guess we need to say thank you, Ivan, for coming along so early on.
That's a pleasure.
And really, really, always really good to get your insight into how you think. And that all 4 of those drafts have pros, right? They're all pretty strong.
Sure.
Obviously, each certain ones carry certain risks, and others just
they're
give you
doable,
a plenary
aren't they?
Yeah, they're all doable.
Yeah, and as you said, it's not necessarily about the players. The players are kind of the flavour that I put on them, but I think the structure is clear to see. The amount of concession you need to take for each one is there. What you're losing and what you're gaining. It's quite interesting so far.
Good stuff.
Agreed.
Good stuff. So, for anyone that's still listening, if you do like what we do, make sure you hit like and subscribe before you leave. And if you haven't done so already, go check out the Salah video. That was a really good one that we've done. And we'll be back again soon. Anything else, mate?
Where can people find Ivan?
You can find Ivan at Reuser5 on Twitter. That's Reuser, I think, if I remember rightly.
Yes, that's right.
Yep. Reuser5 on Twitter. And yeah.
All good, mate. Back in the
Great
week.
stuff.
Speak to you guys later.